Welcome to the National Minority Supply Development Council's Equity in Business podcast. My name is John Daniel, and I'm humbly coming to you as your host. But I'm thrilled and excited to be here with Mr. Mark Morial, president of the National Urban League, and let's not forget, mayor of one of the greatest cities in the United States.
In the world.
Come on, man. Come on now. And one more thing on that. When you're a mayor, you have to be considering not just economics, but trash that has to be picked up.
Trash.
Everybody's looking at you.
Potholes.
Come on.
Playgrounds. Parks. Crime. Fires. Floods. Mosquitoes.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes, indeed.
Mayor of a big city. But hey, I'm honored to be here. And this is an incredible gathering here in Atlanta, the National Supplier Development Council, which is an important enterprise ecosystem organization for Black, Brown, Asian, Indigenous, and women-owned businesses. And I think it's also a gathering at an important time because of the challenges to DE&I. We all have to double down in our determination and our focus and our advocacy to continue to support investments in the growth of policies that support businesses owned by people of color and women and LGBTQ communities in this country. There's a coalition amongst us, and those are communities that have historically been locked out of the economic mainstream, completely locked out, and now I think are central to the growth of the American economy, the growth of the United States in the 21st century.
The vast diversity, sir, just underscoring what you said, of stakeholders here include capital ambassadors, include MBEs, include all the components of the ecosystem that's healthy at the National Minority Supply Development Council. We know while we've been here, $100 million has been given by Altura to the National Minority Supply Development Council.
That is powerful. Congratulations to you guys. Congratulations to Ying for the incredible leadership. That's not a small amount of money.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Look, I know your time is tight, but I want to get to a couple things.
Go ahead.
Give me just a quick set of salient points on the state of the National Urban League.
So the National Urban League is stronger, more impactful than ever before. We just got our numbers for 2023. We served 3.8 million people.
Wow.
And that's more people than we've served at any point in our history. In the days of legend, I'm speaking of the days of Whitney Young and Vernon Jordan, we were serving about 500,600,000 people a year. Now we're serving 3.8. What does that include? Almost 3,000 people that, because of our home buyer education programs, have become homeowners for the first time. 150,000 people who've avoided foreclosure. 250,000 people who, because of the work we do, have had an opportunity to get a job, be trained, prepare, or be connected to work. So we have the strongest numbers that we've had. Secondly, we have a dynamic new generation of both national staff and local chief executives. Every one of our affiliates is run by a chief executive officer at the local level who works for the affiliate. For example, here in Atlanta, Nancy Flake Johnson has grown the Atlanta Urban League in her 15 years by a factor of maybe more than 10. You take Michael McMillan, who leads in St. Louis. They are one of the largest nonprofit direct services agencies in the country. I could talk about Chicago. I could talk about New Orleans. I could talk about Austin or Los Angeles or Seattle or Cleveland or Philadelphia or Washington, D.C. I could talk about the Carolinas, where in Columbia, South Carolina, and in Greenville, South Carolina, we have a much stronger organization than we've had before. Not only on the direct services side, but the Urban League has laid down the gauntlet to say we are going to be a policy advocate. We're going to be a policy advocate for civil rights and economic opportunity every day of the week. So we're active on Capitol Hill. We're active at state capitals. We're active at the local level. And we're proud of what we've done. So the Urban League is strong at a time when we need strong Black organizations. And I'm here to say that as proud as I am of what we do, it's not enough. Given the challenges we face, Black America today is nearly 50 million people. Now think about that. In 1963, 64, 65, there were 23 million African Americans. The size of our community has more than doubled in this 60-year period. So the demands, the needs for what we do is tremendous. The demands and needs of other civil rights organizations, whether it's NAACP, National Action Network, National Council of Negro Women, Black Women's Roundtable, the legal organization, LDF, and the Lawyers Committee or the coalition organization, NMSDC, the Lawyers Leadership Conference for Civil Rights. The demand on us is higher and stronger than it's ever been because of the challenges we face, but also because of the opportunities that are in front of us.
You've made it clear there's a need for a collective impact group that's tenacious.
Yes.
No doubt about it. That said, we know one of the fiery arrows coming at those who've been underserved has to do with the assault on DE&I. Please share your
It's
thoughts.
wrong. The assault on DE&I is predicated on a judicial decision. And what it's been predicated on is a judicial decision that only applied to higher ed admission. And so the conservatives and the right wing and the anti-DE&I forces have sought to torture and contort the logic of that decision to try to make a case that it applies beyond higher ed admissions. And so we're up against that fight and that battle from people who just have always had a problem with it, now trying to suggest constitutional defects or illegality. Certainly having said that, that thinking that DE&I is not good for America is out of sync with the majority of the American people, as demonstrated by a Harris poll that the Black Economic Alliance commissioned sometime earlier this year, which simply says that most Americans, some 60 to 70% of Americans, strongly support the idea that companies ought to look like America, that America ought to achieve racial justice. That's the viewpoint of the American people. Mm-hmm. So it's important to understand that sometimes the loudest voices that are loud, and I say wrong, against DE&I are not the voices that really speak for most American people. We have to be strong public advocates that creating doors of opportunity, mm-hmm. pathways of opportunity for people who've been historically left out of the free enterprise system is very American. It's very mom and apple pie. It's very stars and stripes forever. It's very Yankee Doodle and Dandy too.
Come on now.
I mean, come on now. This inclusion is what this country, economic opportunity is what this country's been founded on. And so we can get caught in nomenclature and specifics, and you got to have those discussions. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, when you're trying to build an economy that works for everyone, when you're trying to make sure there's jobs for everyone, when you're trying to make sure that people have prosperity, you want all the talent, all the ability. You want everyone that has the ability to create a business to have pathways to capital, pathways to customers, and pathways to profits.
Sir, your thoughts are underscored by some of the most intelligent organizations in the world. McKinsey and Company, the Gallup Organization, the Brookings Institute. And you are on the ground with that knowledge, but you're making it happen. And we really love that about you.
McKinsey and Shelley Stewart
yes,
have done a remarkable job really putting together data. The State of Black America report annually, we publish data as well. And there's a couple of pieces of data that I want to share with people. And this is really related to the size of the American economy. So at present, Black spending power is 1.8 trillion. Latino spending power is 2.7 trillion. Asian spending power is 1.6. Together, 6.1 trillion in spending in 2024. Those are where the numbers are going to come down. Now, what does that mean? Say, oh, you're using all these numbers, all these big numbers. Well, if we were an independent nation, then that 6.1 trillion would be larger than the economy of Germany, larger than the economy of Japan. And guess what? Larger than the economy of Russia. We'd be the
Yes, sir.
third largest economy in the world. Mark that down, underscore that. That is a communities or a set of communities that have assets, that have spending power. And we have to recognize, we have to let banks, technology companies, consumer products companies all know that to add to that, almost 50% of millennials, and certainly that's true for Gen Z and the generation coming behind Gen Z, are people of color,
Sir.
Black, Latino, and Asian. We've got to understand the economy is changing. If you don't have a strategy to work with, to invest in, to appeal to communities of color, you have no growth strategy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Who would ignore half of the consumers in America? Who would try to marginalize half the consumers in America? It makes no sense.
Well, DEI really is ROI, is what I just heard you say.
DE&I is ROI. I like that. DE&I is ROI, and it's been demonstrated time and time again. One thing we have to continue to fight against is a zero-sum game mentality. That it's always us against them versus a rising tide lifts all boats if we have boats within which to float. A rising tide will not lift you if you're out of the boat, in the water, or stuck on the bottom. A rising tide will lift all boats if you have a boat. And what opportunity says is you're going to have a boat. Opportunity does not guarantee success. Opportunity does not guarantee profitability. Opportunity guarantees a fair chance.
I love it. I want to bring this back home. That home where I married a Louisiana woman. And I want to talk about gumbo.
Gumbo, baby.
And the Gumbo Coalition, the book, the movie, and the movement. Yes, sir.
So
Take
the Gumbo Coalition is represented here today on the stage here at NMSDC. Ying put together Asian chambers, Latino chambers, women chambers, Black chambers, LGBTQ chambers, with a number of us. And that is what Gumbo is about. Gumbo is about the representation of the multiplicity of ingredients. But when you blend them, they are powerful. When you blend them, they are tasty. When you blend them, and that's what the Gumbo Coalition, a concept that I sort of championed when I was mayor of New Orleans, to try to help people understand why coalition building and working together could achieve. Say, we're the Gumbo Coalition. Well, New Orleans is a gumbo city, and it kind of caught. So I've got a book, which is a leadership book available online, published by HarperCollins, known as the Coalition. There's also a documentary that features my work and that of Janet Murguia of Unidos US that's on HBO Max. So I'd encourage people to go take a look. It just chronicles some of the work we've tried. Every community has to be strong. The National Urban League is proud to champion the best interests of Black America. But when we champion the best interests of Black America, we are also championing the best interests of other communities as well. And that's why we work with many other coalition partners that represent the Black community, the Latino community, the Asian community, the indigenous community, LGBTQ community. We work with business. We work with unions. We work with faith-based. I mean, we work with people where we can find common ground on the same agenda around civil rights and economic opportunity.
Excellent. Sir, I would be remiss as we come to a close not to offer you an opportunity to share anything that we've missed or you just want to talk about.
I think it is important that we have to emphasize the power of our vote. The power of our vote. In 1988, 12% of all the voters in the United States were non-white. 12%. That's when George Bush defeated Michael. 12%. Today, 30% of all voters in the United States are non-white, even higher, maybe up to 35 or 40%. We have power if we use that power. And what is that power? That power is to elect people who are going to champion public policy measures that we've been talking about here today, that other guests are talking about on your podcast, that are necessary for the continued growth, sustainability, and viability of minority businesses in this country.
Yes, sir.
So I'm proud to be with you, and I just want to shout out Ying and the whole NMSDC team, all the local affiliates around the country. I remember the first time I spoke at an NMSDC chapter. I believe it was 1993. I spoke to the Gulf South. It was called the Gulf South Minority Purchasing Council, and I spoke at their annual luncheon. I was a young, newly elected member of the Louisiana State Senate, and I talked about the city. I remember what I talked about: the city at its crossroads.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I went on. That was a year before I ran for mayor and won. And when I won, I made a minority business signature initiative at our airport, with our transit authority, with our public works programs, and our water system. We really elevated and increased minority business participation, and it was proud. But it was a fight. It was hard. There were those who were opposed to it, but you know what? We never gave up. We never gave in because it was the right thing to do.
Victory goes to the tenacious.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you, sir.
Appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.